can be kind of I don't think I've ever looked at one and being like, I'm not going to go here because of that. In fact, if there's more of a chance of something insane happening, I'm more likely to go. And I like the ambiguity in that without knowing what's up. But the review thing, again, so much of that is interpretive. Like you read Google reviews about like, oh, I went there and had an argument with my boyfriend, fucking 1 star.
Yeah. So we're live. We're recording now.
All right, we'll go again.
We have to ask Jason.
Yeah.
Jason, you're good.
No, I reckon that was a great intro. Yeah.
We can edit you out in post. We can, but we won't. Absolutely not.
But we won't. We need authenticity.
No, we do. Rockin'.
Let's
Cool.
go.
Yeah. No, thanks for being here. Thanks for making the journey around the corner.
Dude,
all
so
40 meters of it.
Yeah. I mean, we really put in a lot of effort getting here. So we thank you for hosting us as well in your lovely house.
Man, anytime.
It's beautiful to be here, to meet Jason, of course.
Who's not causing any problems.
Who's not
for
causing
anyone.
any problems, which I've been so surprised by and delighted as well.
Yes. It's pretty boring. There you
go. But yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about, the Joey Jones?
Oh, hey. Well, yeah.
Well,
I guess the easiest way to summarize it is I'm a bartender. I kind of still see it as a bit more of like a craft and a profession over like being a lifestyle choice or something like that. But as we were just riffing on, it's kind of taking me into other directions and other areas of hospitality that I hadn't really considered before, which is exciting. Exciting after doing something for like, 15, 16 years or something that it, a reinvention has revealed itself in a way, or how you present yourself or how you present your work, especially because once you like establish that, that's just what you do. You know what I mean? It's hard to break the mold.
Yeah.
In that. So that's been very exciting for me recently.
So branding,
I guess, yeah, is a big part of it. Or I don't even know what branding I do. I mean, it's funny. It's like so much of my early career just kind of like went by. Like I just feel like I went to work for 10 years and then you kind of sussing out what's remaining at the end, or that kind of stuff.
Were you a chef at the start?
Yeah, I got into hospitality through cooking. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Why don't you like take us back a little bit, like the beginning, like the very beginning of?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess for me it was one of those things because I kind of acknowledged that maybe the formal trajectory of tertiary education wasn't quite for me in a lot of ways. Just I don't know, like school kind of never massively gelled with me. I think both of my parents sort of came from quite large families, and especially on my mum's side, who's Southern Italian. They were all the magic and interesting things that happened in my childhood were kind of revolvent like around them and around cookery and stuff like that. So that always held quite a special place in my heart. And I think the degree to which it was performed at, even within the family, was enough to spark such a huge interest in it for me. And I was like, well, even so, maybe instead of pushing uphill in sort of, standardized areas where I'm not really excelling, maybe I should just try and learn the thing that I think is cool.
So did you grow up in New South Wales?
I'm from Adelaide originally.
Adelaide.
Yeah, this is my how old am I now? 36. This is my 20th year living in Adelaide.
In Melbourne.
In Victoria, rather, from Adelaide. Yeah, you got me for a second. I was thinking about pots and pints and which one has schooners, but that's exactly how it goes.
Okay, cool.
So that was sort of what planted the seed in it all. And also like I used to play a lot of music, so I kind of had a pretty established idea of how like wonderful Melbourne was after playing here a couple of times, and just like, it seemed like just a million times more interesting to a young person as it was. I mean, I love Adelaide, but it still has a bit of a like big small town kind of feeling to me in a lot of ways. I don't know if that's just a byproduct of growing up there, or if it is just that case. But I enjoy going back to work there a lot more now than I used to. There's a few really, really beautiful little restaurants and bars and things like that that have opened up there recently that I've had the chance to go and do some events with, and it's, feels like that city's just expanding in the right direction, which is nice.
Very cool.
Man, it would have blown my mind if that was happening when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Would you move back?
I probably wouldn't at this stage.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I would love to operate or do a business or something there because I think that there's just so much that hasn't happened yet, which is an exciting premise with hospitality. When everything's sort of like a new place can open and you're like, oh, it's a bit like that place, but a bit like that. I mean, I feel like there's some genuine for its location, like original concepts, coming up there, like things they just haven't really seen yet, which is great.
And how did you shift from like you said you were playing music? How did that shift happen, and how did you get into hospitality? Like, what was the?
Well, I think one of the great things about hospitality is that it's especially for a lot of young people, like it's accessible. Like you can figure out how to get a job, and you can be upfront with the fact that you don't have a lot of experience or that you're wanting to learn something, and a lot of places really embrace that and treat that well. Like they hire on personality and ambition and as a over technical skill, which is the only way you can really get your foot in the door as a young person trying to do anything.
Yeah.
So I think, and I also saw a lot of similarities between the two. Like obviously, playing venues, I probably got to see a lot more of a nightlife than I should have at that point in time, enough to certainly spark my curiosity in it all. And then also, yeah, you meet people that own bars. There were a few people I knew who were kind of willing to give me a go at little bits and pieces and all that kind of stuff. So
Was that back home or here?
that was in Melbourne.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's
Although I
when-
did my first job ever was briefly working in a bar in Adelaide, like quite illegally when I was 15, because the dude who owned the place thought I was a lot older, and I just like didn't bother
That's
to
fun.
didn't bother to correct him. So I was in between then and actually learning to bartend, I was around a couple of the mechanics.
So you moved to Melbourne to have and like you got a job straight away. Obviously, you weren't studying or anything.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, no, I had a girlfriend here at the time, which obviously made things a lot more emotionally simplistic to follow that avenue.
Yeah.
And then it was pretty simple. I mean, where was it? There was a bar around the corner from like where we lived. She just lived up Brunswick Street. That they're like, yeah, you can totally come in and operate the dishwasher. Like, please. So yeah, I did that, and that was also in tandem to finishing my cooking apprenticeship and stuff like that. So it was a good, fun, busy couple of years. And I mean, I think that like it sounds like such a weird sweeping statement, but I honestly believe that like everything's the same, even if it's different in a lot of ways. Like
Since then.
well, no, I mean, I guess in the same way that like, music is quite evocative and like intense and engaging, like that's certainly how hospitality came across to me. It's like, man, it's a war zone in here. It's great.
Have
You
you
like
ever,
the chaos.
Yeah, the chaos is good fun.
so have you ever worked in daytime hospitality, or was it always like night?
Oh, I've certainly had jobs where I've I've done lunch services and things like that, but
Yeah.
I've never had sort of like a structured, I've never done a day job as such.
Like a cafe or anything like that?
No, not really, or anything else for that matter. Like, I know that a lot of people have had at least some crack at like, working a bit of corporate or retail or something, some other thing. Yeah, I haven't done that. It's always just been hospo,
Okay.
which is yeah, a matter of circumstance, I suppose. But it's hard to say that I would have done anything else or any other way. I have no idea.
And did you take it seriously? Like, did you want to take it seriously, or were you just trying to like fucking around and see how you go?
No, I think overall, like I said, I was very interested in cooking, and I think I met quite a few people who were like, this is something you can do as a career, or you can hang your hat on and whatnot. And even though I didn't sort of follow that to its completion, it certainly instilled in me the idea that it is something that you should take seriously. It's as valid as absolutely everything else is. And I know there's a lot of people who don't share that opinion or that kind of idea that it's a a bit of a flash in the pan thing, and maybe it does. It certainly serves that purpose for heaps of people. Like of course, like it's awesome to have money to spend when you're studying. Like you should go and work in a cafe or a bar or something.
Of course.
And until you get your life together. But yeah, like I said, I always took to it quite sort of heavily.
Mm.
Yeah, it always made like a lot of sense to me. And I think it was one of those things as well, like it just provided me like when when you're growing up and you're sort of developing social skills and figuring out what you're going to be like, it's like, sometimes that's kind of hard. I was like, this job forces me to interact with people, and that's like a good thing.
Do you not like, did you not like interacting with people?
Oh, I mean, I love it now. It's kind of the only one of the biggest virtues of the situation. But yeah, I'm an only child and stuff like that. I think I'm just like super used to being on my own or being alone
Mm.
in your own company and whatnot. So it never really bothered me. Like I never felt like tons of pressure to be like out there and all that kind of stuff. But that's again why I liked, the work side of things. Like was forcing you to build relationships and bonds with people who you would never come across, which I think is super interesting to me. It's one of the same things I love about bartending, like just being a part of those people's day, even if it's for a minute. Like, yeah, some of those people that I've met in those circumstances, I would never cross paths with any other way. So it's fascinating.
Tell me more about this, like interaction with people. Like, do you like, is it something you like you develop, you learn, or is it just something that comes naturally? Like,
I'm not quite sure, like the natural propensity for it. I don't know if I definitely don't know if I have that or if I had it before sort of going down this path. But I think I like situations where I have to acclimatize to stuff like quite quickly. I think that like those situations you learn a lot about yourself quickly when you kind of conquer a few things that like maybe stress you out. It's quite validating as well. Like, if I don't, when you first like serve your first table somewhere and you're like an absolute mess, but then you do it and you lived and then you don't fuck up the next one and so on and so on and so on. I thought that was kind of like a fun exercise to put myself through. Um, and yeah, and now I kind of feel like I could, not that I especially want to, but I feel like if I had to, I could kind of find something to connect with about anyone.
yeah, and do you think like because it's like serving alcohol and like drinks, do you think that makes it easier? Like, do you or
Oh, totally. I mean, yeah, I mean, easier. It's like the epitome of like fun till it's not. Like it can be easy and it can make things a lot harder. But I mean, alcohol is like the glue of society, whether people like to acknowledge that or not.
so?
But yeah, which is an interesting stance to take in a world that's moving away from maybe thinking about it that way. But yeah, it can absolutely make it easier. Like, that sort of that lubrication, sort of like filling the moments between moments and the little gaps and the little times when people like question themselves or freak out because they're waiting for a date or they don't know what to say, and those things being filled with like, yeah, what booze just clinically does to people,
Yeah.
I guess, can make it simple. And it's the other side of that coin. It can lead you into extreme peril as well.
Crazy.
How do you feel about the world and the generations moving away from alcohol more and more? I mean, I know it's happening in Australia. I'm not actually sure about the entire world. So I don't
Yeah,
want
me
to.
me neither actually. I mean, I can only presume so, as it's one of those things where like education and longevity are just higher up on people's lists. Now, that I guess, you live long enough to see like what all your old like rock star idols are looking like and getting around like, and then you're like, fuck, maybe that wasn't it. Like maybe it's a bit of that. But yeah, I mean, hey, it's ultimately a good thing, like the preservation of people's life and well-being is like 100% a good thing. And I think it's just about one, it's interesting because it's an odd shift to try and stay like relevant in. And that's another thing I think that's really made me embrace the kind of more recent work that I've been doing that's quite traditionally diverse, as opposed to just tending bar or owning a bar, which is like awesome, but like very straightforward. It's been a good way to see how you can still do what you want to do in an environment that is like altering around you. Like it's not really just enough that you open up a bar and make great drinks anymore. It has to be so much more than that. And visually, people want more, or they want to see more of a benefit in including you in their routine and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's an interesting one, and it's one that's like I don't even know if I have a good answer to it, to be honest, because it's an ongoing cycle.
What do you think about like the non-alc game that's on the rise?
Yeah, I
Have
mean,
you heard?
I mean, it fits perfectly in line for that. I mean, that's like supply and demand, right? As like value systems shift, and people are like, "Well, it's cool to not just drink lemonade." Like, yeah, there should be more stuff like that. Um, not, again, it's just,
Fucking hard.
yeah, dude, it's insane. Absolutely. And like not everyone, like same as every other product in the world, like they don't all hit. Like some of them are pretty cooked, and then some of them are like absolutely sensational, and I can see as being like a viable replacement for these things. But I guess that's another thing as well. It's like if it's an industry that's going to have so much further emphasis put on it, the standard will raise
For
like
sure.
uniformly at some
Yeah.
stage, which is
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So you got to Melbourne, you got that job near Brunswick Street, did few years. How did things play out after that?
So yeah, after I was still cooking for quite a long time, and
Cooking.
yeah. I mean, as well, like I was sort of doing my apprenticeship and working outside of that, and then had a couple of jobs on the side to just keep myself interested and keep a bit of money coming in and whatnot. It's not like not that living in a bedroom of a share house with someone else was like a particularly financially taxing endeavor. But you're young and in a new city, you want money to go out and like have a beer,
Hell
and
yeah.
you hear your friends talk about something, and you're like, oh, I could do that. That would be good. Like, so yeah, that was sort of served that purpose there. But it sort of just cruised along that trajectory until like I got into like knocking off work and going out with friends and stuff like that, and that's like what really cracked open like the true nightlife and version of what hospitality was like. Like the front of house dudes are like, oh, like we're going to this bar. It was the Toff in town, actually. I remember exactly how this story went. But they're like, oh, we're going to the Toff in town, like you should come, you'd love it. It's like this weird little, there's a train up the center of it, and it's really dark, and it's a club but it's not a club, and all these things that didn't make sense to me in the same sentence. I was like, yeah, perfect, like let's go.
So Melbourne.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
How
Melbourne.
old were you?
How old was I then? Probably like 20 something.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe 21 or 22. Yeah, it would have been around 21 or something like that. And yeah, I remember going there and meeting this dude who was the bar manager there. Um Anybody, the bar manager there at the time. This guy called Daniel Monk, who was just like fucking all over it, just like this absolute little like Hellcat ball of energy, who was just up and down this bar, like making it all swing. And I was like instantly hooked on that, especially that environment, because it was like loud and clubby and like real wild. And but there was all the stuff that was going on behind the bar in the cocktail section. There's all this like technical proficiency to make hundreds of these drinks for people really quickly, and that also spoke to me from a very organized kitchen perspective additionally, where it was like, this is just kind of cooking with liquid. This is like a big larder section, except people are yelling at you to like, give them a fucking drink, not a like a
That's
crudo. So yeah, that really massively got me hooked. And again, sort of coming back to that thing where it's like I didn't have the experience to work in that setting like at all, but if you can recognize that drive to learn within people, Dan was like, great, like, do you want a job like right now, kind of thing, like come back in a week and we'll start. And I was like, great. So he kind of taught me the first wave of everything I needed to know to exist in an environment like that, which was invaluable. Like I wouldn't have been if not for him, I wouldn't have been able to do that, which is cool. And then yeah, as I kind of got a bit more interested in the bar scene, which was the thing at that time, or my interest in it was rather, yeah, I kind of went to other bars that were doing things a bit better and a bit better. I eventually got a job at another bar that was pretty kind of popular at the time called Lily Black's, which was up the other end of the town, like a more serious, like cocktail driven venue. And a couple of guys who worked at the Toff, they did casual shifts there.
Mhm.
And I remember I'd work with them like the night after, and they'd be like, man, it was fucking crazy in there. They're like, it's just cocktail madness, like you'd love it, kind of thing. So yeah, I eventually got a job there, which was great.
What resonated with you more?
What's that, sorry?
What resonated with you more at the time? Were you feeling like, oh, the serious like cocktail driven menus is great, or like because the Toff was so kind of crazy and hectic?
Yeah, it was
that more fun?
It was a bit of both. I mean, I found both environments challenging in their own fun ways. Like working at Lily Black's was great because I kind of again got a job there when I was a bit like out of my depth. Like I might have just had a grip on some of the reasons I should work there, not all the ones that I could work there for. So again another huge learning curve like straight
Yeah.
away, which was awesome. And I met my first business partner, Rita, there. She was the manager at Lily Black's at the time. And yeah, we hit it off massively. And after working together for a bit, we were kind of like, well, I think maybe we could do this like ourselves if we had the opportunity to do so. So that's kind of when we started looking around.
Amazing. Tell us about that process.
It was pretty, I mean, again, interesting for me. Like I'd never done anything like that before, and I think after I felt really like confident in my ability working with her or being supported by her and working in that space, and we had an idea of sort of, not that there was anything like intrinsically wrong with that venue. Like it was heaps of fun, and it like produced a lot of great bartenders and made good money and all that sort of stuff. But it was you can't help but reflect on, if you were doing it, what would it be like?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a lot of conversation about stuff like that, which was again an interesting journey to go on, because I'd never really considered doing that for myself before. So yeah, there was a lot of kind of learning about like, well, what do I actually like, or what if I had the opportunity to project something, or put your identity behind a product, like what would it be like? So that was quite cool.
I love this process of like just trying to imagine what would my thing be.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because I'm like going through it now again
Yeah.
later in my life after
Yeah.
after quite a lengthy time.
I think
But,
it never ends.
Yeah, 100%.
If
Well, I
you're
mean,
like a creative, passionate person, I don't think
100%. And I guess like as we were just discussing, like the world changes, you've got to change what your place in it is, I suppose. I mean, there's very few things that are just like solidified and don't move.
never goes away.
But
Maybe
How did
counting.
how did it turn into like reality, the first fan shop?
so we kind of had, or because I used to work like so much, like obnoxiously much. Like there were points where I'd have like 2 or 3 jobs, and again, I never just sort of I was quite like reckless with money occasionally, but pretty generally, if I knew I had like a reasonable amount of it, I would just hold on to it. So we had enough between Rita and I to start, and it also helped for context that Rita's background before hospitality is accountancy.
Right.
So when it
You need
comes,
that.
100%, and
Yeah.
that's that was probably the most productive like working relationship I've ever had, because we fill the bits that the other person doesn't quite have the time for mentally or want to do in a lot of ways. But yeah, so we had a little bit of money to start playing with there and figure out how we could develop like, a business plan, and what are the real costs on this? How can we project this into something we can show someone and get enough money and all this kind of stuff. So while we were kind of going through that process, which was fairly like, it ticked over in the background of our work, because we had, I had a bar to sort of work in, and she was the manager, so we were still quite busy with all that sort of stuff. We just came across this site. A friend of mine went to see it, who wanted to open a bar, and he said, hey, it's a bit too small for me, but it could be exactly what you're after. Why don't you go check it out? So we started going in there on our breaks, because it was like literally like 150 meters away, door to door. So we started going in there on our breaks and just having a quick, like trying to vibe it out and see what it was happening. It obviously wasn't in the best sort of condition regarding attendance, and maybe its sort of financial state and whatnot. Like it didn't there wasn't a lot of love sort of in it. You can sort of see when stuff's a bit tired and on its last legs. It sort of had that feeling about it. So yeah, we pulled our resources together and like literally just wrote them a letter and left it there, just being like, hey, not to say you're selling, but would you consider selling? We're interested in it for this reason. What are your thoughts? So yeah, we went and met them, and that's how it all came about. That's how we're able to get ourselves into Crosley Street, where Romeo Lane was for the next almost 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And like, as I can see here on your wall, you won a few awards for that one.
Yeah, yeah, it was a great period of time for like a lot of reasons. I guess one, when you're young and you have that like blinding drive, like there's very few things you can't do.
How long did it take from since you opened to when things started to click for you?
Well, it was interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, we were open for about 6 weeks before we won that oh no, probably not 6 weeks. It was almost probably 3 or 4 months actually before we won that Bar of the Year and the Good Food Guide, the first one, which was like and I think that was just a matter of circumstance. I mean, like I remember we had a review in one of the publications. I think Dan
Oh.
Stock was writing for them at the time. And then a few other people that I kind of half recognized came through. And Dan was like such a big supporter of ours. It was so pleasant. Same with Michael Harden, who is still my favorite writer in Australia for hospitality purposes, and beyond. Actually, he's such a clever guy. But yeah, those guys came through, and it just seemed to like, we didn't know what to do when we got that thing slid under the door. We were like, the fuck is this? And a couple of people, a couple of friends of ours and colleagues were like, well, you don't usually get invited if you haven't won anything. So like, because I was like, do we go? Do we not go? Like, it was all very mysterious to me at that point. So yeah, but that, I mean, in terms of things clicking and in terms of things being like, oh, this isn't just a like, we'll see how this goes, like open a bar type scenario. We'll probably be able to break even on it one day, and that's good enough. It was like, oh shit, like people are like listening, and that's really, really cool. And that was such a gigantic like motivator to us to continue.
What do you think was the thing that differentiated you guys from the competition that made it, that helped you win that award so early on?
Yeah, oh, gosh, I don't really know. Like I said, I guess all it could come back to is like, you can see, and I see it now with new places that open, and I see it now with certain specific individuals, like they just have like the will to win. Like not necessarily in a commercial sense, it's like goes so much beyond that, but it's like this is their world, this is what they're there for, and like no one's fucking around with it. Like it's just
Obsession.
yeah, yeah, or obsession or just deep, deep commitment, and I think that's very hard to imitate. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that was something that was maybe
So you're saying like they could feel your passion.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. And I mean, I certainly remember the way that I felt at that point in time and in my life. Like, that was like our everything. It was like, you didn't have to worry about anything else. You just had to worry about like getting up, being there, and like doing
Yeah.
the best thing that you could do. And that was awesome. That was an
Amazing.
awesome
And what
period of
what
life.
did that do to your mental, to the kind of like the person that you thought that you were going to be at the time? Like, how were you defining yourself after winning that award,
Yeah, I mean, I guess, like I said, I guess it validated a lot of the sort of ambiguity and concern that I might have had about, what if this doesn't work out and how does it, which, again, it's as I've gotten older, I think that paranoia and like fear kind of wore off a little bit. I mean, as an adult, you realize the best way to like not go hungry is to like bait more hooks, right? You're just like, I could do something else if this
Yeah.
got so bad, or if this fell through, I could just go and do something else.
Yeah.
But at the time, that thought was not present in my mind at all. It was like, this is like do or die kind of thing. And we obviously took it so seriously, and that's what was so great about having just a like one partner who was in it like so hard, like as much as you were. Like you really propelled each other in that sort of environment. But yeah, I guess like I said, it validated a lot of things. I thought it was obviously like it was a huge confidence boost, and it was nice to be thought of. Like I don't think you should operate just exclusively to try and
Win.
check box those awards. I mean, like, they're good. They're good for business for sure. But to do it just so you could say you did it is maybe a bit, I don't know. I feel like that would be a bit of a like hollow kind of approach
Amazing.
to it. But yeah, it did a lot of good for us personally and mentally.
And then what was kind of the trajectory of that bar? How did it come to an end?
So I guess so much had happened between sort of opening and then, closing as it did over a decade. But we gradually, like, that area, that little quadrant of town is just like, it's so old. There's so much old money. There's a lot of grand plans for it and all this kind of stuff. We kind of gradually started to hear whisperings here and there about like, oh, because I don't know if you recall the Jobs Warehouse, which was the frontage there. That was always under development, but up for sale, but it was too expensive for anyone to buy and all that kind of stuff. So we were kind of always conscious of that and cautious that that could be a thing that came up. So I think, sort of about the 7th or the 8th year, that really started to be like, oh, that's a thing that's going to happen at some point. But by the time it did come, as I said, so much has changed in like the decade that went by. Rita had 2 children. At one point, I went and opened another restaurant with my friend Sam Stafford called Mono XO. There were lots of little things that had occurred that by the time it actually rolled around, when someone was like, hey, I think this building's getting like sold. And obviously there were the physical cues as well. They were starting to scrape the back of the block out from
Right.
whilst not maintaining the exterior, which is something they had to keep a hold of for the historical reasons.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Heritage listing, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were starting to excavate the back of the block, and because they're working off these like 200-year-old plans, like nothing's really as it was. You've got like dudes with kind of like huge machines knocking out walls, being like, oh, there's no pipes in this, and then all of a sudden it's Friday night service and you don't have water and electricity and stuff. So it was becoming quite problematic to exist in that space towards the end.
Like it.
So when they finally like formally was like, oh, you're gonna have to wrap this up, I think I can't remember when it was, but there was like maybe 4 or 5 months lead time or something like that. I think Rita and I we were just sitting there having a drink together, and we're just like, fuck it, let's do it this weekend. Like, let's close this weekend. Like, enough's enough. Like, we're not gonna get, we didn't want to do the big like goodbye tour, because it was such a huge anchoring part to our lives as well. We'd done it from our early 20s up until we were early 30s. I don't think we wanted to drag it out much and do the whole thing. So I think we got that letter on like a Wednesday, and then yes, we did Saturday, Sunday night till like 3 a.m. just because fuck it.
Did they buy you up?
What's that,
Is that what
sorry?
it is? They like take the business off you? Like, how did that work? If they were developing the building, do they have to like give you some
Yeah,
compensation?
gave us some notice, because they were all divided into individual tenancies.
Right.
So like some of them were okay, and then some of them had to like go entirely. Like the paperback bookshop, for example, is kind of like far enough at the front that it was sort of exempt from all the stuff that's going on. Whereas like us and Lucy Folk, the jewelry store, I don't know if you remember that, or upstairs there was the P. Johnson suit shop as well. We were a great little group of dudes. Like all that stuff just had to go. But the same thing, they were experiencing similar issues. You know what I mean? By the time it all rolled around, it was like, let's just move on.
Yeah. So you were mentally prepared. Like, it didn't feel like a big loss having to close it, or?
Oh, I mean, there's certainly like there's a lot of emotion and a lot of feelings that like dragged on for like long after that. About not having it as a staple in your life anymore, which it was sort of like kind of like losing a friend or something.
It's full on.
In a way. But yeah, we were mentally prepared for it. It wasn't like it wasn't some great injustice where someone yanked the rug out from us or anything to that effect. It was very much on our terms, which is pleasant. You don't often get that.
Yeah.
But I could, like, I'm sure it was exciting as well, because you're like, what's next?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, that's the thing about routine, right? It's like such a forest from the trees rig. Like when you're in it, you don't think about what you have to do next or what you could do next in any way, because you're doing the thing. You're like a cog in your machine.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of exciting, I suppose. I mean, I'd had a bit of a taste of it as well with doing work with Sam and having our other business and whatnot, which was really difficult because the two places existed or coexisted. So that was really hard to manage both. But I think even so, just being like, well, there are other opportunities. There's other forms of expression. There's other, is it another bar? Is it something else? Is it like, all that kind of stuff? I know a lot of people after doing a business for that long, they turn their skills to other areas like consulting and, however else that you can interact with people. I think that's a good thing too.
It's so true.
No. Happy-go-lucky.
Beautiful. And then
yeah, and then that kind of, I mean, that wasn't even really that long ago, to be perfectly honest. Since then I started doing like, I've had a crack at a few other businesses that haven't rewarded me in any way as much as that one has, sort of emotionally or existentially. But that's still why it's very much so like the GOAT and like the big defining thing in my life that I got to do, with Mono being a very close second. I mean, I made some, like separately, like Rita and Sam are still like my two best friends, my two like most relied on people, so whenever I get bummed about those places not being there, I just think about that and how nice it is to have them, and that's really, really good.
That's beautiful.
And then from there, I guess that opened the door up to the stuff I'm kind of doing now, which we riffed on a little bit before, but I never thought that I would get to do any kind of work on the platform or as varied in the way that I am now.
Tell us more about that. Like, what are you up to?
Yeah. Oh, so at the moment, there's two venues that I've kind of got in development. And that's sort of the big picture. With some other another institution in Melbourne. I think that's more of a long-term kind of goal. But in the interim, I've been able to do some fantastic stuff with the guys from Space Between and At the Above. They're a like incredibly progressive creative agency with a gallery on Gertrude Street, which has been lovely. We just recently finished like a collab show thing together for Design Week, which was yeah, took sort of the application of that work again to places I'd never thought of, like, you know, all these things that exist in a hospitality space, like, you know, music and furniture and all these design elements and all the things that you know, make these things great, but you often overlook. It was so cool getting to work with people who like do this for a living and make those things, like Tom Faraday, who made this like incredible kind of sound system metal speaker thing, and all the furniture for the event was incredible. Like, you know, how often do you and you know, all the nuances, and just like getting to meet him and being like, oh, you know, the chair that you're sitting in is like half of the physical experience of dining. Like, this is great. Like, learning about that. And then the guys from Paper Cuts, who are an Australian music label, did all the sound and curated that to the days in the space, which was wild as well. Just having them kind of read the room and apply what needed to be done. Again, that's sort of like, you know, that struck me as just like a great section way to just sort of spotting, you know, the tasks that need to be completed and just lifting the mood by doing stuff like that, you know, to like analogize it. And then all right, these guys from California came over. Idol, they're perfumers, which was super curious to me, because that's something I want to learn to do eventually, because I kind of see that as like an extension of like distilling spirits and producing flavor and whatnot. That's like another way that ticks a box in your brain, the scent of things. So they lived in the studio for 2 weeks while we were doing the show, and you know, did a whole bunch of work there, and were promoting their new stuff and developing scent, which was great to be a part of. It was kind of like just watching someone come up with recipes almost.
So it's all like, you know, it's like collaboration events, and it's not just like, hey, I'm gonna show up at the bar and make cocktails, which is really cool. But
Yeah.
I think, like, from, you know, the outside, I think, you know, for you to be able to do these, it's like, because I feel like you, I don't know if you did it consciously or not, but build a brand. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I guess it's in the like least contrived, like weird kind of way. I guess, like, in the same way I said before, everything's the same as you know, as it is different. That kind of art, fashion, music, design space, I kind of see myself a bit more, or what I do, sitting as like an item in that somehow, than just strictly being hospitality or bar oriented. Because you know, like, I love doing the thing where you stand there and make drinks, and I love creating drinks, and you know, coming up with things that will make people feel something and being part of their day. I think like that's super interesting to me, but that certainly has its limitations. You know, I'm so grateful to be able to work with these people who do, like I said, pretty much anything other than hospitality is more interesting to me than hospitality. So being able to
Yeah.
integrate the two and apply sort of methodology to both things is super exciting to me.
But do you think you posting your interest on your Instagram and your digital platforms does help
Yeah,
for you
possibly,
to
yeah.
kind of like land these collaborations?
I mean, maybe. I mean, so much of it comes through people like I know, and you know, things that you've chipped away on over the years, like all, you know, the stuff with Penfolds and At the Above and all that. Like, you know, those are people I met, you know, 10, 12 years ago, and you keep in touch and gradually want to do something together, and then it's like the thing, and then what is it? And that's like really cool. But I think you could probably learn more about, or in my instance anyway, more about what I'm like, what my curiosities are, and the, you know, all that kind of stuff. It certainly gives my work some context by, like, you know, the music I listen, you know, posting stuff about the music I listen to, or whatever.
Yeah, I think, like, you know, if you're giving an advice for an 18-year-old
Yeah.
person that want to get into this space, like, what would you tell them?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess don't hide yourself too far away, I think would be great advice, because, you know, whilst you don't need to go around sharing every detail about your life, like, far from it, actually, it's probably better for your professional world if you know, you just sort of remain a bit stoic in that sense. But when people are trying to get a sense about what you're good for and who you are and what situations that you'll be applicable in, like, it sounds shallow, but like taste in, you know, music and film and all fashion and all these things, like, it fucking matters.
I agree.
And you
Depending
can
on the industry that you want to go in.
100%,
If you want to do cool stuff, you have to present yourself
yeah,
as cool in those
Well, yeah, like I said, good taste
in
goes
those
like a
ways.
really long way.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of the people who I work with now, like if you look at you know, they'll send me something about like architecture or like a a painting from something in like ancient Rome or whatever, and that's more productive to know what their trajectory is like to me than a cocktail list from a bar they went to 5 years ago, for example.
Mm.
I think you can extrapolate a lot of intention out of like what people are into.
And in terms of practicality
Mm.
for this 18-year-old person, like where do they start? Like I know a person um that they just finished school and they're interested in like the bartender world and becoming a bartender, but it's kind of overwhelming because it's like
Yeah, it
if
is.
it's a cafe, it's easy to get in, but like to become a bartender, like you're going into this like it's a night shifts most of the time. It's like it's a bit more like
It's pretty vivid
yeah.
as a thing. I mean, I think I was able to skirt around personally some of the drama with that because, like I said, there was a lot of that intense kind of kitchen-esque energy in me where I kind of liked the craziness and the intensity of things. I didn't feel that intimidated by the environment in that regard, but yeah, it can be standoffish, and I think that's pretty generally that's why you want to be as inclusive as humanly possible. And how many people would get deterred by the wrong first experience, you know what I mean, when you're trying to teach people things and invite them into your world. I mean, I'd probably say like pursue it for the right reasons is a thing. Like if you're genuinely interested in like I guess like I said, I see it more as like a skill. I think bartending's like closer to hairdressing than anything like more exciting than that. I mean, you're intimate and in people's close spaces, and you're forced to have the chat and make them happy, and you're providing a service and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I think if you're interested in drinks and whatnot, that's a great reason to do it. Bar culture can be very intimidating. It can appear to be more of a lifestyle choice than anything about a job,
Mm.
which isn't a bad thing, but it can like dilute what getting into it and enjoying it is actually like. Like if you're a bit more focused on, the bar scene, as it were, as opposed to bartending, it can probably cause, it's just harder. It's just harder to like make that journey fluently
Yeah.
if you're worried about that.
So where do you start? Like, how do you learn if you don't know anything about making drinks?
Well, yeah, fuck, I guess
Because you're not gonna get paid if you don't know how to make a
yeah,
fucking drink.
yeah, exactly, 100%. And I mean, you mentioned it before, like cafes are a good place to start, like because you can blag anything if you can keep people talking, if you can keep people happy and interested, and like keep that rapport up. You can navigate so many hazardous or awkward situations that might freak you out. And I think like most places are going to start you out as like a server or something like that, which is a great thing to do because it builds knowledge. It gets you involved in just like what a bar, the swinging mechanics of the bar and what they're like, because they are kind of weird, as you mentioned. It's like a full day's work that just starts, happens at the middle of the night. I would say that like probably approaching it almost from that kind of like cafe-esque perspective, or take alcohol out of the equation is what I would say. It's more just about being personable and being with people.
Do you feel like, I mean, when you're working in a bar, do you feel like you just have to perform consistently, like, and like have that charisma and like character of like being chatty and talking and interacting? And what if you actually are not in the fucking mood to do that?
Oh
What
man,
happens?
yeah, it's the way of the world, isn't it? But yeah, there are some situations that demand that, and some that like won't. And I think a lot of that is just like sheerly physical. Like if you work if you work in like a loud pub or like a nightclub, like I did first off, and people are just like kind of yelling quickly what they need, and you're getting it to them. That's like the extent of the interaction. That's kind of not so bad, and that can for sure prepare you for a lot of like what's to come forward. If you're at a very service like knowledge driven bar kind of thing where it's all people go there to talk to the bartender, you're constantly challenged with well, one, keeping that conversation moving, and then how appropriate is your knowledge to that situation. And it's an interesting time because like now people who come into bars know as much as you do about like what's in a drink, or you're not having there to like mansplain what like milk clarification is because I've watched a YouTube video on it. Like some of that stuff is kind of it's cool because it raises the general like tone of awareness, but it's also stressful. So you do constantly feel like you have to be like wowing people a little bit with new stuff. And that is kind of stressful on top of getting everything right as
Yeah.
well. Not impossible, of course, but
What do you think what would you like people to more like know about in this industry? Things that people do not consider or undervalue or
I don't know. That's such a like interesting question depending on like location and whatnot. I mean, we were so fortunate with like Romeo because the layout of the bar was almost in a separate room. It was like almost in a kitchenette kind of thing. So like whilst you could see us and like walk up to the bar and interact with us, it wasn't like that kind of environment. It was very like removed from it,
Mm-hmm.
which I came to like really enjoy for sure by the end because it gave me more time just to focus on like the thing and not like what's happening, out on the floor. Even, if I wasn't working on the floor, that is. So that was like a rare opportunity. But I guess like it's the same thing. It's like I'm sure like a million people have said it that like, famous people who are just like, oh, everyone should work hospo for a little bit just to get a bit of an insight about it. That's why like you just can't be hard or like too disparaging on people. Like you have no fucking idea what's going on in their world, in that workplace. Like it's really difficult to show up and have these like extreme demands that you've laid out for yourself that must be met from a consumer thing. So I don't know. I guess it's not a specific answer to that question, but I guess tolerance is a nice thing
Yeah.
for people to potentially have a little more of.
And then, you add the fucking Google review factor for that, people now have the fucking
Yeah.
balls to go and do it. It's
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
crazy.
it's an interesting thing. It's like some of that stuff can be kind of relevant. I don't think I've ever looked at one and being like, I'm not going to go here because of that. In fact, if there's more of a chance of something insane happening, I'm more likely to go. And I like the ambiguity in that without knowing what's up. But, the review thing, again, so much of that is interpretive. Like you read Google reviews about like, I went there and had an argument with my boyfriend, fucking 1 star, like
So random.
that's
This makes no sense.
yeah, I mean,
Doesn't
it's
actually
just
pertain to the experience at all.
no.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why it pays to read them in a sense to go through it and
Yeah.
actually separate fact from fiction.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess everyone having that opinion and the ability to voice that with 10 seconds of a flick of the wrist is a whole
Yeah.
new thing to consider as well. Back in I remember it just used to be what was written about in
Yeah.
the Good Food Guide that week.
Speaking of crazy things happening,
Mm.
we would like to get one crazy bar experience from something that you've done that's not incriminating, obviously.
Where are you? Man, there have been some pretty good ones. There's been not too actually always on the pleasant side. I was only recounting this story to someone the other day. Actually, we had like on the whole, we had such a good run with like customers broadly. Like, I think as well we were a small place with like a small team. There wasn't a lot of room for people to cause a lot of drama or have heaps of issues, which was nice. It was such a simplistic sort of style of service that I still try and adhere to, which is good. But yeah, we've pretty generally always had nice things. Romeo Lane was such a prolific date spot. There's been so many proposals and like weird on the fly, like marriagey, like profession of love things that were like kind of cool. There was a couple who came in and they hadn't seen each other in a really long time. There'd been like this 10-year gap or something like that. And again, that sort of provides that alcohol filling some blanks in people's mind thing. This girl was so nervous and about seeing this fella again, and they sat down and she had a couple of drinks and we had a shot with her. I'm like, oh, it's cool. Like, you'll be fine. Like, and she was prepared for failure. She was just like, man, if anything really bad happens and I just stand up and walk out, like, here's my phone number. I'll pay the bill over the phone. Like, I'm totally not running out on you guys. It might just be a necessity. And we were just like, what the fuck is about to happen? But anyway, it was just like quite emotional scene. And they disappeared for a couple hours. And I didn't think much of it. I was like, okay, whatever. We were really, really busy. This is like a Saturday afternoon or something. And anyway, they came back a little bit later on and told us they'd just gone to get married at the registry after just seeing each other for the first time in like a decade.
That's amazing.
So the good thing about Romeo Lane as well was that it was like room in a building, so we were able to like lock it off.
Yeah.
So we just put a sign on the door that we were closed for a private function and locked the door and just like opened like every bottle of champagne in the building and poured it out and had like a little 1 hour of power like wedding reception for these guys.
Dude, that's amazing.
And that was like,
Wow.
and you know, that's one of the craziest things I think I've ever sort of seen. Like that's something out of a movie.
Yeah.
And I'm so much happier that like my wildest experience is that and not like, oh, you know, like a car drove through the front door or something like
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
through the window. But yeah, that remains pleasantly the strangest and most incredible thing that's happened to me whilst at work.
I love that.
Yeah, it was a wild
That's
couple
such a
hours.
fulfilling
Yeah.
It would have felt so good to have that happen at your bar.
Oh man, 100%. Yeah, and like, so I've seen a few proposals and just like really lovely dates, and you know, people that sort of come in. Yeah, I'm sure it happens to heaps of people actually.
Yeah.
But people who come in and like, oh yeah, every year on Valentine's Day we come
We
back
come
here.
here.
Like, I love being a part of people's
That's
world
special, yeah.
in that way. That's
Wow.
so much more important than like, you know, remembering every cocktail under the sun or the,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
or the little
Let's
bit.
talk about cocktails for a bit.
Yeah, please.
Like how do you make your cocktails? Like what's your process? What's your inspiration? What's your
Yeah.
Tell us anything. Like I'm really just genuinely curious. Like is there like recipe cookbooks for cocktails? Is
Yeah,
there like
absolutely. Well, if
yeah.
you kind of glance over there, you just see that cabinet's just bustling with books that are kind of just like I always really took to the old like vintage cocktail manuals and whatnot because they were so like just peculiar. They were such wonderful snapshots in time of like what was happening and like what are half the measurements. It's like, you know, 2 cups of this and a spoonful of that. You're like, what is that actually? Like, I always found decoding it like quite a fun thing. But in terms of resource and recipe, yeah, there's hundreds of them. I mean, they're probably most prolifically documented in like the Savoy cocktail book. Like that's a great, like that's the build, you know, a huge building block and what modern drinks are off. And I mean, realistically, there's a few people that have gone to quite great lengths in the last little while to demystify it, you know, because I mean, that's another great thing about cocktails and cocktail history. It's all recorded and generated by just like drunken liars, right? So, like, no one really knows what the fuck was going on half the time. So, to sort of record it was a necessity. But then for the modern day, you know, you'll get people like the guys from like Death and Co, for example, who do a cocktail manual and be like, well, there are only actually 4 or 5 different styles of drinks, and everything else is a variation of those, like a sort of skeletal system, which is a great way to learn about drinks quickly and also remember them, you know, that kind of thing. Like, you know, is this drink that drink with lime instead of lemon and that kind of stuff. I mean, I take, especially like Romeo had a very vintage style in the beginning. Like we were working out of those books almost like letter for letter kind of thing, because that's what we thought was cool and we were really interested in. And then as time, that's the thing, I guess, why I keep coming back to that as like a reference point in my career. It's because I got to see the most of my own progression, where the most good got done. Because like from where we started to the kind of product we were doing at the end was like, you know, light years away. Um, but I think starting out with that kind of foundation, and then I always thought it was better for me personally. I found it more interesting about drinks where not everything has to be this full reinvention and flipped on its head, and not everything has to be like theatrical and insane. Like just change like one thing kind of thing, you know? So like, and I kind of put myself through that cycle of doing that when I was when we first opened and when I was learning to make drinks. Like you know, I like drinks sweetened with honey because it's like got that kind of chew and a viscosity that like sugar can't provide. So I was like, well, what are all the other drinks that, you know, that I like? I'll make them with honey instead of sugar. You know, like a honey daiquiri is called a honeysuckle, and that's like I think one of the greatest easy small alterations you can make to a drink, to tailor it to someone's specific interest or get so much more out of it. So that's kind of how I started, I guess, making my own drinks. You know, it's all the drinks that I, at least, you know, how original is anything anymore? I don't really know, but
Of course.
you know,
Yeah.
and if you've had that thought, how many other people have or haven't had it is a fun question to ask yourself. But like, that's definitely how I kind of got into the like, well, this is what my style will eventually be like. And you kind of anchor yourself around a handful of products and try and interject them in places maybe they shouldn't have been, and that can lead to like stunning breakthroughs or failures.
Could you be a bartender without drinking alcohol?
Yeah, I mean, you could, yeah, you probably could. Some people do. so I know some people who don't drink alcohol, but still still make cocktails and stuff like that. Not because, like a physical aversion, like they've got an allergy to it and stuff like that. There are people who have quite famously become sober through their rather prolific bartending careers, like Jack McGarry from the Dead Rabbit and stuff like that, who I have no doubt are still capable of producing high in demand items that taste awesome. Based on their like existing technical proficiency, but like, I highly doubt these guys are just pissing into the wind and throwing glitter out there. Like you have a taste of something and know if it's for someone. You just don't have to drink like 80 of them. I think that's totally possible. Yeah. Moderation's like a whole thing. That's like, the concept takes a minute to learn and then it's a lifetime to master. But yeah, I for sure think it's possible. It's like, the same way there, some of the best chefs I know like can't fucking eat crustacean, but they steam the shit out of a lobster,
Speaking of your drinks, your style, everything, what's like your one? What's like it's very close to you. You could strip back all the drinks off one of your menus, and there's one that has to stay. Is there one that's that for you?
There's certainly stuff that I get asked to make a lot when I do kind of pop-ups and events and things like that. It could very well be a drink called the Disco Martini, which is it's literally just it's a dry gin martini with some orange bitters and a dash of falernum, which is kind of like you see it a lot in tiki drinks. It kind of tastes like those sour Coke bottle lollies. It's got a lot of clove and cinnamon and scorbic acid in it. So it's kind of like top line, it's sort of like a tiki martini in a way, but its intended purpose was that it was a martini for people who don't like martinis in a way, because it does have a subtle sweetness, an acidity that's not present in a lot of straight booze drinks, and it's kind of like it's a bit fun. And that literally that was one of those things, like I was just on the fly at some point one night where a customer at Romeo Lane was like, I like the idea of martinis. People watch Mad Men, they want to drink old fashioned.
I'm really just curious, like, why is it such a big thing? Like, I'm not a big drinker. I tried martini and I didn't love.
Wait, how can you like a martini?
But it's it's like in all the movies, in all the fancy stuff, in all the fancy parties, they pick up, the one with He's up. Shut up. He's been such a good one.
Yeah, we did move around a little bit too much just then.
That's all right. We got him. We got him.
Such a good boy. What's the go?
I mean, look, they're fucking stylish. You're a kid. You see James
steez.
Bond drink them.
Yes.
You see Audrey Hepburn drinking them. As like all those iconic imagery. They look fucking great.
They look good with the olive.
Yeah,
they do. They're steezy. It's like
people want to be
New
a part
York
of that
lifestyle.
Yep.
Stylish. Chuck a couple olives in there. It's a drink with olives in it. It's like, why? I think that's the appeal of the martini.
It ties back into this this like power lunch thing that I see coming back a little bit as well, the whole 3 martini lunch and all that kind of stuff, which I think is rad. But I mean, also I think it's one of the most important drinks, if not the most important drink in the world in a lot of ways, because it's
it's a huge call.
It's an instant signifier of how seriously people take shit.
Yeah.
When you go
if you drink a martini,
bar,
you're not fucking around.
Well, no, not necessarily that, but that too. But also, I guess just like you go into a bar and if everything's coming out of the freezer and it's like Arctic, like a great martini. Again, it's one of those things, and I always find there's nothing more complex than simplicity. Like there's just nothing to hide behind in these instances. Correct. And that kind of the attention to detail it takes to get something so basic, like perfect, is a real like true commitment. But and a great martini is like Shakespearean, and like a shit one is just like a fucking D-grade horror film. What is this? But anyway, that's a drink I get asked to make a lot, and it does serve a purpose for people like to cross that threshold. Like, you want to have like a big boozy drink and you want to hold that cool glass and feel like mega suave, but if it just doesn't agree with you, then you have to like look elsewhere.
Disco martini.
Dude, it's designed for fun. The first time I ever served it in like in an event setting, it was like we were doing them in we would do like in a large scale, sorry, beyond the bar. We were doing them out the back of a tent in Margaret River for Gourmet Escape with Mike Benny, and I was stirring them with a Posca pen.
Sick.
Just making like hundreds of them.
That's a very disco martini of
It
disco
was very
martini.
disco, yeah. It's
Doesn't
very
take itself too
it's
seriously.
contextual, yeah. They're pretty delicious though. It's one of
Yeah.
those things that they're like, on probably every opening menu I would pop it on because it's a nice acclimatizer.
Yeah, I like it. I think maybe that's like a little bit of the Italian in you too, with like sophisticated, like doing really simple things.
Yeah.
We're just doing them really well. I feel like that's like the basis of all basically Italian cooking as well.
Well, I mean, it comes back to things almost being just like raw and evocative and like produce driven. You know what I mean? Like with sort of with a unpleasant gin or something like that. If one bit of it's off a little bit, the whole thing's just don't do it.
Yeah.
What's an overrated drink?
An overrated drink. That's another good one too. I don't know. It's weird. They're also contextually appropriate at times. I mean, there's things that we've taken inspiration from and improved, I think. I'm not a big amaretto guy. I'm not a big amaretto sour guy, but that's another thing that just like you see scores of just getting watered over the world now. I would have thought that in the same like that health conscious shift that like just mega sweet weird stuff kind of would have gone with it, but maybe that's the next thing on the chopping block. I don't know, but yeah, that's just a personal kind of objection. But yeah, I don't know. I think honestly, like whatever you feel like you should have at that time, like the right drink is the one in your like right fucking hand when you're in the mood. You know what I mean?
And you mentioned that the martini kind of tell you a little bit about people. What the question is, what's that one drink order that immediately tell you that someone is a red flag?
That's another good one. I don't know. Oh, we could probably characterize it as well with another kind of martini. The porn star martini also always really stresses me out for some reason. And I think it's only because maybe I've just made them for like hammered fucking British people, but like that seems to be like a thing where it's like you hear it and you're like, oh no.
Not this again.
Yeah. It's
What?
back, yeah.
What's porn star martini?
It's sort of like a shaken, it comes from, it's that whole thing as well where at one point anything in a coupe glass or a martini glass was considered a martini, irrespective of its actual ingredients. But it's like a shaken vodka based drink with like passion fruit in it, and it comes with a little sidecar of like what probably should be champagne but is very often like the worst sparkling wine ever served alongside it. That can either be kind of like shotted or bombed into the glass.
It's so easy to drink.
Yeah. Oh man,
they're always on
you
like
blink and you miss
bottomless
it,
menus
for
and
sure.
stuff. You could just drink like 100 of them.
Yeah, I mean, but again, that's who am I to say? Like, that's someone's perfect drink right there. So, I guess like probably the cautionary tale of all this is don't cast too much judgment.
What's your like? So obviously you would definitely have an opinion on this. What's like about modern? We're talking about a lot about like the changes in bar culture and all that kind of stuff. Is there anything about modern bar culture that's a bit of a turn off for you, or you would like to see changed?
Most of it. Like I really, really love, and it's funny. I mean, not to disparage that because I know some people are super into it and it makes the job more interesting and whatnot. But I love bars. I love being in them. I love bartending. I have some friends that are bartenders who are really, really fantastic at it, and I don't mind having a bit of a riff with them on that. But I guess that thing where, like I said, it's like a real someone makes it, there's no doubt someone's memed about it or something like that, a picture of a dude in a waistcoat and it's like, works one shift and it's their whole identity or something
like a bartender starter pack type thing.
Yeah, something to that effect. I guess like for me that's a bit of a turn off because it's something I do. I guess it's just the mechanism for how I'm working. Like it's not necessarily that I do it because I kind of love that element of it. Like if I could paint, I would love to contribute to some of these creative campaigns in some other way than than making them drinks that represent that particular brand or something like that. But yeah, I guess that kind of real quite narrow. It's like it's all about that, and that's how you have to live, and that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, and it's boring working around people like that as well, because it's just like if you're always just talking about chartreuse or whatever, fucking, not that I don't love Fernet Branca and things like that, but there's a few spirits that really bring out these insane obsessions with people as well.
Yeah.
But, if you spend your whole time talking about that and, it's kind of what's cool, like employing people that go to uni as well, like this girl Ella who worked for us is like a ceramicist, and, there were so many other people who had all these other incredible skills that I would just want to like data mine them for
Yeah.
instead of talking about drinks with, and I found that infinitely more gratifying. Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get to learn so much more about people in that way.
So cool.
Have you ever looked around mid-service and thought, why the hell am I doing this?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, heaps. And I mean, not so much in an existential way as in like, I hate this industry or like woe is me, because I guess you gotta keep in mind pretty much with everything in your life, when you find yourself back a place again, it's usually because you chose to be there. In a figurative and a literal sense, I suppose, with work. Like, I said it before, if I ever felt so annoyed or downtrodden or upset with the industry or whatever, I would just go do something else. But there's certainly been times where maybe you're missing your friends, or going to see your favorite band, or you've had like a shit week and you're just like watching everyone else have a nice time and just be
Yeah.
absolutely buckled, and you're like, fuck, that would be so good if it was me.
I could relate to that. I used to do a lot of wedding photography, and yeah, just like, oh my God, like at the end of the night, especially, like it's like 10 p.m. and you're like there and everyone's having great time, and you're like, you've been shooting for like 12 hours, your friends are out somewhere.
Yeah.
You missed your favorite DJ coming in town because you
Exactly.
had a fucking wedding. And it was actually literally one of the reasons I wanted to shift away from weddings, because of that very thing. But it's like your time is against everyone else's time,
Yeah.
basically.
And it's like, I can only imagine like the fact that you were constantly at weddings would have exacerbated that as well. That's some real lonely hardcore
Everyone is
shit
having,
to me.
yeah, great time and drunk, and yeah, I'm just there. My feet hurts, and yeah,
I think, yeah, absolutely. And it's like, but I guess it's key to try and not to like dwell on that stuff like way too much. It's that sort of like, I kind of learned about it the other day or something I was reading. It was called like conditional motivation. And it's like, you're only like happy and feeling good about stuff when things are going your way. So like you're kind of in these like day-to-day interactions and moments, you're keeping like room in your mind for like, oh, this is going well, I should be psyched. And then the hesitation of wanting to do basically anything else. And it's like quite taxing to do. So I think like those moments where you were probably looking around at people dancing, and I was probably looking around at people dancing on the
Yeah.
other side of the bar, just like, nah, that's all right. I'm where I'm meant to be.
yeah,
Try and get it out of your head.
yeah. How do you see this playing like when you get like older? Like I could imagine it being a little bit probably harder to like have. Yeah, what's your
Yeah, for
thought?
sure. I mean, like there's definitely there's definitely a finite timeline on working for like 90 hours a week and bending up and down into fridges and stuff like that. I mean, my like back already sounds like a rusty drawbridge, and stuff like that. But beyond the physical, I don't know. I guess that's where I like so many of the people that I'm around right now, um, who have been so like influential to me and like quite important in figuring out where else this work fits in the world beyond just the standardized bar setting. Again, the guys from Space Between have been massive because they're always just these sort of black holes of like creativity that are getting you sucked into being like, oh, this is kind of like that, but it's like this, and all that, and instantly they're like, oh, you see someone doing like a pop-up in like one of the alcoves in like France or something, and it's being photographed by someone super famous or whatever. Like, I think that the application for my work, and that's sort of what I was saying before, I don't really know what it is or where it can go, but I feel like it's more, it's only limited by my imagination to project it onto things. I don't think it's limited by having to own venues. I mean, that's something that's kind of more stressful than not now, like I guess
love
just
that.
financially and
Yeah.
whatnot. But I think the only limitations I'll experience in doing this that probably have nothing to do with my age at all. Actually, it's more just how nimble I can keep my thought process and my mind is myself. So as long as I sort of stay active and keep listening to good music and spend time with the right people and look at the right art and keep myself guessing, it's all going to be fun.
It's really refreshing, Joe. We've loved learning about you, and I think I really liked your approach to your craft and like how you see your craft in a different way, and the innovation and the way you talk about it is really inspiring. And thanks for having us. Jump in, let's do a photo before we wrap this up.
Good job.